soil of Africa has supported life for millions of years. It is probable that man originated here, and that we all might be descendants of the past Africans. Africa has a rich and complex history, but it was buried for centuries beneath layers of European ignorance and superstition. European exploration of the continent was long discouraged by insects carrying malaria and sleeping sickness, by hostile seacoasts, by powerful Muslims, and by a great sea of sand. Yet Africa was never completely isolated, nor has the Sahara always been a vast desert. Thousands of years ago, it contained moisture, and therefore life. Eventually, a relentless drought settled over the land. In the desert, on a plateau called Tassili near Yair, Stone Age Africans left a remarkable visual record of what they looked like and how they lived thousands of years before the construction of Egypt's first pyramid. After many centuries, both the land and painting became dry and barren. Images of the outside world appeared. Rock painting ceased, and the people moved away. Silence and pit vipers took possession of the now sandy wastes. In this bleak landscape, useless except for fertile strips on either bank of the Nile, two great civilizations arose. The first was Egypt. To the south lay the first kingdom of unquestioned African origin, Kush. For several hundreds of years, the Egyptians had dominated the Nubian peoples in the land they called Kush. But about 750 BC, when Egyptian power had begun to decline, a wave of Kushite kings pushed north to the Nile Delta, conquered their former masters, and became Egypt's 25th dynasty. The Assyrians soon expelled the princess of Kush, using a metal unknown in Egypt, iron. Driven south, the Kushites found that their own land was rich in iron ore. And they learned to produce the new metal themselves. Iron tools and weapons, the people of Kush were able to control trade and consolidate their territories. Here was a large city, a center of trade and technology, thriving at the time of Christ's birth. Who were the ancient Kushites? In 430 BC, the Greek historian Herodotus provided one of the first descriptions.
South of Egypt is the country inhabited by the blacks. After many days' travel, one reaches a big city named Meroe, said to be the capital. The inhabitants make war according to pronouncements.
While much of the art of Kush was inspired by the culture of Egypt, much was not. Perhaps someday, the written records of Kush, still undeciphered, will provide answers to its vanished past. About 350 AD, Kush was conquered by peoples from the Ethiopian highlands known as the Axumites. They had created a civilization with its own language, writing, and architecture. Large monuments were chiseled from single blocks of stone. Axumite woodwork was suggested by such carved details as doors and locks. Long before Axum became Ethiopia, its ruler was converted to Christianity. Monasteries became centers of worship and learning. Often they were hidden in the mountains, secure from non-believers and women. Ethiopia is one of the oldest Christian nations in the world. Its emperors traced their ancestry to the Old Testament, to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Churches cut out of the solid rock date from the 12th century. Christian ceremonies were observed as early as the 4th century. In the face of Muslim expansion, Axum retreated to the mountains. Muslim expansion also nurtured competition for trade along Africa's east coast. Cargo is still transported by ancient sailing vessels called dhows. An early Portuguese administrator described this commerce.
The men are for the most part brown and black. They speak Arabic and are great barterers. The vessels of the country are of good size and decked. There are no nails and the planks are held together by cords. This is a place of great traffic.
Sailors used the monsoon winds to sail across the Indian Ocean to the fabled trading centers of India, Indonesia, and China. As early as the 8th century, Arabs had begun to settle along the east coast and to build in their traditional manner. Much of the culture of these city-states remained essentially African in origin. Further to the south and inland, other Africans were constructing the mighty stone walls of Zimbabwe as a temple or a fortress. The Portuguese, who probably never saw Zimbabwe, had heard of the famous stone walls and wrote of them in the 16th century.
In the midst of a vast plain is a fortress of masonry within and without, built of stones of marvelous size, and there appears to be no mortar joining them. This edifice, more than 25 spans in width, is almost surrounded by hills, and on one of them is a tower more than 12 fathoms high.
The construction of Zimbabwe began around 1000 AD. At this time, certain notable events were taking place in other parts of the world. Empires rose and fell in West Africa. The trading kingdom of Ghana was then one of the richest empires of the world. It was described by the Arab geographer al-Bakri.
Ghana has two towns situated in a plain. The one inhabited by the Muslims includes 12 mosques. The town the king lives in is 6 miles away. The king's palace is composed of a castle and round-roofed huts, the whole being surrounded by an enclosure similar to a wall. In the woods around the king live the priests who look after the religion. When the king gives audience to his people to listen to their complaints and set them to rights, he sits in a pavilion behind which stand 10 pages holding shields and gold-mounted swords. The subjects of the king salute him by throwing dust on their heads. All the gold nuggets found in the mines belong to the king, but he leaves the people the gold dust. Without this precaution, gold would become so plentiful that it would have practically no value.
Eventually, Ghana was absorbed by Mali, which was to become one of the mightiest empires in Africa. In 1324, Mansa Musa, the renowned emperor of Mali, made a pilgrimage to Mecca. He left his country with 100 loads of gold, all distributed in the course of his journey, some to desert people whose path he crossed. The route to and from Mecca passed through Cairo, where he poured the torrents of his generosity, spreading so much gold that when he departed, the merchants had to lower its rate. After Mansa Musa's death, Mali declined. In the 15th century, the empire was absorbed by the Songhai kingdom. Tales of gold spread as merchants traveled the ancient Saharan trade routes. The flow of trade transformed many desert towns into prosperous cities. One was the legendary Timbuktu. In 1510, Leo Africanus wrote,
"The king rides forth led by noblemen. Here are great scores of doctors, judges, priests, and other learned men who are bountifully maintained at the king's cost. Hither are brought diverse manuscripts. More profit is made from the book trade than from any other line of business. Salt is very scarce here, for it is brought by land from 500 miles distant."
Salt, a necessity in a hot, dry climate, was worth its weight in gold, as it had to be brought from great distances by camel caravans. The well-traveled Muslim scholar Ibn Battuta accompanied a salt caravan in 1352.
"I bought camels and 4 months' supply of forage for them and set out with a caravan including a number of merchants. After 25 days, we reached the village. There are no trees there, nothing but sand. In the sand is a salt mine. They dig for the salt and find it in thick slabs. A camel will carry these slabs. The blacks use salt as a medium of exchange, just as gold and silver is used elsewhere. They cut it up into pieces and buy and sell with it. The business done amounts to an enormous figure in terms of hundredweights of gold dust.
Caravans flocked to Timbuktu from all points of the horizon, bringing the wealth and knowledge of the outside world. By the 11th century, Islam had achieved a firm hold on West Africa. Ibn Battuta was impressed by the devoutness of the Muslims.
They make their prayers punctually. They regularly attend their meetings of the faithful. On Fridays, anyone who is late at the mosque will find nowhere to pray. They zealously learn the Koran by heart. The children who are neglectful in this are put in chains until they have it memorized.
Elsewhere, along the West African coast, important kingdoms were appearing. Their prosperity the result of trade in gold, slaves, and ivory. In the 17th century, a Dutch traveler city.
It seems to be a very large town, for when one enters it, one first arrives in a big, broad street, unpaved, which seems 7 or 8 times as wide as the main street of Amsterdam.
Benin's artistic history spanned 2,000 years, from clay heads to bronzes of great beauty and sophistication. Objects in bronze were cast in the lost wax process. A figure was carved in wax, encased in a clay mold, heated, and replaced by molten metal so that the wax itself was lost. The craftsmen of ancient Africa remain anonymous. Much of their work, mainly created for religious and ceremonial purposes, has been lost or destroyed. But what remains is enough to assure these artists and their work a position worthy of the highest esteem. We have just begun to understand the diverse civilizations that form Africa's long history, and to appreciate Africa's many cultural achievements.
There is always something new coming out of Africa.
Herodotus wrote these words many centuries ago, and this observation is as true today as it was then.